Let's get right to it. The most profitable component in a 2030 model year vehicle will not be its battery pack or its powertrain. It's going to be the line of code that unlocks the heated seats. The century-old business model of selling hardware is being systematically dismantled, and it's being replaced by a strategy where the car you buy is just a terminal for recurring revenue.
Look at this number, 20 billion euros. Now that's not a market valuation. It's the incremental annual revenue one single legacy automaker is targeting from software and services by 2030. This is Otoread. We decode the machines in the markets that move the world.
And there it is, straight from a Stellantis press release. This isn't just some forecast, it's a core corporate objective. And you need to understand, this ambition isn't born from some flash of innovation, it's born from desperation. It's a direct response to the terminal decline of the traditional hardware sales model.
Which brings us to what we call the hardware trap. This whole pivot to software is really just a defensive maneuver. It's a reaction to the immense structural financial pressures that are crushing the legacy auto industry.
Here's the squeeze. Margin compression on the vehicle itself is accelerating. Think about it. The capital expenditure needed for new BEV platforms and for developing Level 4 autonomy is just astronomical. It's made the one-time sale of a car an unsustainable profit center. So the industry has no choice. It has to find new, high-margin, recurring revenue streams just to fund its own technological transition.
So what's the strategic response to being caught in this hardware trap? It's the software-defined vehicle, or SDV. This architecture has become the new operational imperative for, well, every major OEM out there.
An SDV fundamentally decouples a vehicle's capabilities from its physical hardware when you buy it. The best analogy isn't really a car at all, it's a smartphone. The hardware becomes a platform engineered from day one to host an evolving suite of software and services that are delivered to you over the air.
And the scale of this opportunity is massive. Data from Coherent Market Insights shows the automotive software market is projected to more than double by 2033. We're talking about a compound annual growth rate of over 13%. This, right here, is where capital markets are expecting to see all the future growth. And believe me, these ambitions are not theoretical. Legacy players like General Motors and Stellantis have already given explicit guidance to their investors. They're committing to tens of billions in annual software revenue by 2030. This isn't some ancillary business. It's being designed as the direct replacement for their shrinking hardware margins. But there's a problem. This software-centric strategy is creating a direct and immediate conflict with the market. It risks alienating the very consumer base that these OEMs so desperately need to keep.
And the point of conflict is the model itself. In the legacy model, you bought features with the car's trim level. It was part of the upfront price. The new model, it installs the hardware universally. Heated seats, adaptive suspension, even increased motor output. But then it monetizes the activation of that hardware to recurring subscription fees.
And this model is already being deployed. Right now, Mercedes is charging customers $1,200 a year to unlock the full torque and power output of the electric motors that are already physically in their vehicles. This is performance as a service.
As you might expect, consumer data shows severe market resistance. Analysis consistently shows that buyers are overwhelmingly against subscription models for hardware-based features, and that creates a significant execution risk for these multi-billion-dollar corporate strategies.
Now, as vehicles become massive data generation platforms, a second front has opened up. Regulators are now stepping in to challenge the OEM's claim of data ownership. And this is creating a direct conflict between these new revenue models and legal compliance.
Every single connected vehicle generates terabytes of high-value data, everything from component wear to driver behavior telemetry. This data is a core asset, and the battle for who controls it is now being fought in the halls of government.
In Europe, the EU Data Act is the perfect example of this regulatory intervention. And just look at the implementation timeline. This isn't some future risk, it's a present-day compliance challenge, with the core requirements taking effect as we speak.
The Act's provisions are a direct challenge to the OEM-centric model. They fundamentally shift data sovereignty from the manufacturer to the vehicle owner. It mandates that owners have the right to access their vehicle's data and, crucially, to share it with third parties, like independent repair networks. So what you have is this three-way collision between corporate strategy, consumer resistance, and government regulation. This creates a completely new operational environment, and navigating it is what will separate the winners from the losers in this transition.
If you want to see the end-state model, look at financials from a software-native OEM like Rivian. The data shows a profitable, high-margin software and services division that is actually subsidizing the currently unprofitable hardware side of the business. This is the financial architecture of the SDV model when it's executed successfully. Now, this entire business model transformation is only possible because of a fundamental shift in the vehicle's electronic architecture. The legacy system of distributed, domain-specific electronic control units, or ECUs, is being ripped out and replaced by a centralized compute architecture. Essentially, a vehicle operating system that makes all these complex, over-the-air updates and feature subscriptions technically feasible in the first place.
So, the make or break variable for the next 5 years isn't actually technology, it's trust. The automakers who can successfully reframe subscriptions as genuine value-adding services, think optional track day performance modes or advanced trailering assistance, they will capture the market. But those who simply put up paywalls on standard features like heated seats will face consumer revolt and regulatory fines, ceding the market to their software-native competitors. This leaves us with a critical question. Should regulators allow OEMs to restrict vehicle data access to protect their high-margin service revenue, or should they mandate open data access to promote consumer choice and competition in the repair market? For data-driven automotive analysis, support our work by subscribing to Otoread. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next breakdown.